Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to an awesome episode of the SMT Podcast. Today, we got the man, the myth, the legend himself, sneedmobile Tech. And what's this I see in the skies? Is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it's Moose.
It's a moose sighting.
It's a moose sighting. He is here. He is live, and we got some great topics to talk about tonight. We got all kinds of juicy info thanks to Sneed. We're also going to be talking about our Q2 predictions for AT&T, T-Mobile, and Verizon. This is long overdue, and I'm sure there'll be other little spicy hot takes sprinkled in between. But with that being said, Sneed, do you want to welcome some of the awesome audience members that have made their way to this Friday night stream?
Yeah, Dennis, thanks for being here. Thanks for getting the show started. Moose, welcome to the show. We do have some people already here piling in quick. What is it, July 15th? So we're right through the middle of the month. And we got Mark, we got Jason, Ram is in the house, Pixel Dude is here, and Baja Blast. That's the Mountain Dew dude, right?
It's actually a flavor of Mountain Dew, actually.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. This guy's all about that Mountain Dew life. You know, I'd be doing the Kickstart life. You know, Josh is in the house. What's up, man?
God damn.
Oh, snap. We got D. Schneider in the house with a $5 super chat. Are you ready to rock? We're not going to take it. No, we ain't going to take it.
We're not going to take it anymore.
Oh, snap, man. That's right.
Dude, I used to play that for DS. There was a Guitar Hero game for DS, and that was one of the songs you could play.
Oh, I believe it. That's like a Twisted Sister classic, isn't it?
Yeah.
I actually can't think of any other songs they made. That's the one that sticks out.
Yep. It's a meme at this point.
Good looking out, D. Schneider. Appreciate it, bro. Oh my goodness. All right. I have the people with me. We're here in the live chat. I got the goons with me, Moose and Dennis. Where do you guys want to start with this, man? Do you guys want to start with the
I want to start with whatever you wouldn't tell me behind the scenes that has to do with C-band.
Hold up. I'm gonna go off though. Once we get to Verizon, right, I'm gonna go off.
Go ahead, Moose. Go in, bro.
No. Well, I'm tampering my explosion here.
So to set this up for the audience, Sneed said, "Get ready to be angry and get spicy," and that he has something he's going to drop. I don't know what it is. He wouldn't tell me until it was time for the show because he wants my live reaction. So Sneed, please hit us.
All right, let's do these super chats really quick. This one is from another one from D. Schneider. If you lay off Dennis, you can finally afford me. Hashtag Telco Rockstar.
Fun fact: Sneed does not employ me. I wish he did, but he does not.
Yeah, I actually, yeah, he's a good friend, but not an employee, not at all. Appreciate it, D. Schneider, for super chat number 2. And this one actually coming in from Santiago. Appreciate you, buddy. It's been a while, man. Glad to see you on the show. How's it going, SMT Nation? Welcome to the show, my friend. Glad to have you. It's been a minute. We haven't seen Santiago much, but we're glad to have you back. And I'm guessing life gets busy. You know, what are you supposed to do, man? You just busy away. Let's see here. And thanks to everybody who got the show started with super chats. We got 64 in the live. We're like 3 minutes in. This is great. We got an excellent showing already. So what did we decide that we were going to do?
You're going to do whatever it is that you wouldn't tell me behind the scenes that has to do with C-band.
Okay. All right. So Dennis, have you watched the video updates the last 2, I should say, about C-band in regards to AT&T and Verizon?
Man, you post like 20 videos a day. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Probably not.
Dang.
The last one I saw had to do with AT&T and like crazy stuff, but I don't know if it's the most recent one.
Okay, so that's the most recent AT&T ones. Actually, no, the Verizon one was the day before, wasn't it, Moose?
Yeah.
Okay, so we did the AT&T one this morning. We did the Verizon one last night. Basically, and then this kind of alludes to the first part of the title of the podcast, and the 5G leadership gap for T-Mobile is going to be closing pretty quick. And by that, I don't mean like availability. I still think because T-Mobile has been building their mid-band 5G for a couple years, I think that the POPs measurement, that metric, I think that's still T-Mobile's to continue to build on in the foreseeable future. For example, like I don't think neither AT&T nor Verizon will catch T-Mobile in total POPs covered for probably at least another year and a half, at least, maybe 2 years, because they've essentially had like a 2-year jump. So I don't expect that to close anytime soon. But the networking speed and capacity gap, I think, is about to close up pretty quickly. And the reason I say that is because a lot of the C-band updates that I'm starting to get internally at the big companies, we're starting to hear about bandwidth increasing. All right, so just as a quick refresher, AT&T operates 40 megahertz of C-band today. And that 40 megahertz is Block A C-band, which is technically Verizon's, that Verizon has agreed to let them use for the time being. But there will come a point where Block A is only going to be with Verizon. It's theirs. So when Blocks B and C clear, which is kind of like phase 2 of C-band clearance from satellite operations to, cellular transmission, once that happens, then everybody gets theirs, right? Nobody's sharing, nobody's in any agreements and stuff.
Pause before you go further.
Okay.
Can you really quickly clarify to me why Verizon is letting AT&T use it?
Sure. Big shout out to Big John Tech Reviews with the super chat. Thank you. He said, yeah, hello, my friend. Big John, it's good to have you, man. Thanks for coming through. Appreciate the support. Glad you could be here. And the super chat dono is an incredible gesture. Thank you guys for all that you do to support the channel. In terms of why AT&T is using that A block from Verizon, it basically boils down to the fact that Verizon paid top dollar for that entire block. They paid a lot of money, Dennis. I mean, that was the highest per megahertz pop block. Most places that needed to address the congestion of the network immediately. So Verizon knew it was going to clear right away. They outbid everybody for all of it. And I think what ends up happening in this instance is AT&T is permitted by Verizon to use it in an agreement for payment.
Right, but
I literally...
I get the payment, but I'm saying, like, if I was Verizon, right, I would not want AT&T to have it because that means I'm hurting I would argue my biggest competitor. So I don't understand why Verizon wouldn't throw up the extra 40 right off the rip.
Well, I don't see how it's better to try to hurt AT&T or help yourself. I mean, it goes back to the saying, cutting your nose off to spite your face.
Fair.
So that's kind of how I look at it, is like, whenever there's a deal between two entities, the best deals are when both parties win, right? Not when one is harmed and the other one wins. That's a bad transaction. You have a loser involved. The best business deals are always when both win. I always viewed the Block A agreement between AT&T and Verizon as a win-win situation. Verizon gets the entire block, which is phenomenal. But to help them kind of finance it and alleviate some of that financial burden and pressure, you get AT&T in on it to pay for it. So I think it was wise for them to do it. And they still get a bulk of it, right, Dennis? They're at 60%, right? 60-40 split. They're still on the A side of that. That was pun intended, apparently. So I don't know. It made sense. I would have done it too. And it's not because I'm helping my competitor. I'm helping myself more so, I believe.
Also, one other thing I want to say before you progress, I just wanted to say, when you're talking about AT&T and Verizon catching up to T-Mobile as far as POPs covered, I see it happening, and the only reason why I would see it being delayed or not happening is if the FCC gets in the way. That's just my stance on that. And the reason I logically think of that way is because Verizon and AT&T are literally outspending T-Mobile by more than double to do this build out. So with the logic of that, they're spending more money to do it, they should be able to do it both faster than T-Mobile did, and also / be able to catch up to T-Mobile because they already have a lot of cell sites in places where T-Mobile had to build whole new ones, whereas for Verizon and AT&T, they're just replacing equipment.
Yeah, I get your process. If I had to put an estimate to it, if this is 2 years from the merger and this is where T-Mobile is today, So 2 years of mid-band build. I bet you AT&T could do the same build in instead of 24 months, they could do it in 16 or 18 months.
I'm pushing it down to 12.
Okay, see, I got Verizon right around that mark. So, I don't know. I've seen Verizon do more in the last 6 months than AT&T, but I've seen AT&T do more than Verizon in the last 3 months. Right? So it's kind of and I can only speak to my market. Nationally, I know Verizon is doing more than AT&T. AT&T is really focusing on their core PEAs. They're taking those top 20 or 30 very seriously, whereas Verizon is really doing the top 46 very seriously.
I guess to put it another way, to put a real date on it, just to prevent confusion, I'm saying by 2023, end of 2023, T-Mobile and Verizon and AT&T will have matched T-Mobile in terms of C-band / mid-band 5G pop coverage, or at the very least, it'll be within 3 million.
We'll see. I mean, I can't blame you because you're going off the CapEx, and that always seems to be king. CapEx is king, and AT&T spends a lot of money.
I mean, let me jump in here because I'm extremely excited, right? That we have credible intelligence, right? That the iPhone 14 is paving the way, right, for these operators to push the limits of the capacity. And what I mean by that is that we have indications from Cleveland market as an example, where DoD and C-band, right, 3.7, right, are going up on the same portion of the rack, right? And we already have an awareness, right, that DoD spectrum is going to be launched sometime very soon.
Yeah, we're hearing Q3 Moose, and it's pretty solid.
Exactly. So now we already have indications as well that the N77 is going to be pushed up. The clearance period for that full 1 gigahertz plus the additional block B of C-band, right, and 3.7 block B seems like it's happening very soon. Extremely soon.
Yeah, and Moose, we're getting a little crackling from your end. If you could see if you can figure that out. But what Moose is indicating is confidence in the intelligence that the DoD spectrum, which AT&T has 40 megahertz of it, national, plus they also have 80 megahertz, or in some places 100 megahertz of N77 C-band. Collectively, those are deep swaths, and this is kind of what I was alluding to, Moose, when I was describing the 5G network gap that that T-Mobile has created. The gap is going to be closing. What T-Mobile did with the Sprint merger was you get a ton of customers, you get all their assets. It solidifies your success in 5G because it gave you a 2-year stimulus package. You eliminated a competitor, you took all their customers, and you got to jump on mid-band 5G build. Right? So from that standpoint, yeah, AT&T and Verizon were playing from behind. Now, AT&T and Verizon both have larger overall networks. In most instances, many will tell you that both AT&T and Verizon have more reliable networks nationally. Things can vary from region to region and place to place. But for the most part, that's T-Mobile's advantage, was the time they had ahead of their competitors in just a dedicated mid-band 5G build. Well, that the amount of coverage in 5G mid-band, like T-Mobile's got the 2-year jump, but the speed and the capacity that's about to be created on the network, that gap is closing quickly. Verizon is early clearing a lot of block B. So it looks like AT&T is as well, because we're already hearing that they want to go full 80 megahertz Q4.
Yep. And
right?
In Dallas, 100.
and there's a couple other markets too, Moose, if I remember correctly, that have 100. I think it's LA.
It's huge.
What do you know other markets, Moose?
Well, I'm under the impression it's just Dallas, but
is it just Dallas? Okay, I thought it was a couple other ones. Maybe I misspoke on that. Yeah, so now T-Mobile's still going to be the spectrum leader, right? If you're simply counting bandwidth, like megahertz of spectrum, T-Mobile's still going to be out ahead. They have 160 megahertz national average for the N41, 2.5 gigahertz. Verizon's going to have 160 of C-band, and then AT&T is going to have like 80 megahertz of C-band, but they got the 40 of the DoD that pushes them up to about 120. In Dallas, it's 140. That kind of closes that gap, right? Now, where T-Mobile gets ahead a little bit is because they have a little bit of the C-band in some places, and then they have DoD in some places too, mostly national. It's just a smaller channel. So and they also have PCS for two companies. They have their own Band 2, and then they have the Sprint Band 25.
Right.
They have a lot of spectrum. You see what I'm saying? So, like, they're still out ahead in terms of overall bandwidth, but is that really all that meaningful, Moose? And the reason why I say that is they're going to be doing a lot of fixed wireless access ads. Meanwhile, AT&T won't have that, right?
Yeah,
so when you're looking at just available capacity on a network, that's one of the things that I've said in the past. AT&T doesn't have to service fixed wireless access over their traditional mobile network. Meanwhile, Verizon plans on doing that, and so does T-Mobile. And big shout out to MS. Thanks for the super chat. He said, awesome way to spend a Friday night. Thanks, guys. You're welcome. Glad to be here and offer you the show, and thanks for watching.
I mean, let me ask you this. So, Dennis, right? You have C-band in Pittsburgh, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If I told you that an additional 80 megahertz is going to be coming of that same consistency of speed, what do you think about that?
I'm going to say something that's going to honestly surprise you, Moose. In Pittsburgh, if we're talking about AT&T, C-band has made zero difference in my life. In fact, I actually prefer just being connected to normal DSS or LTE because I actually get better uplink from AT&T when doing that than being connected to the C-band. Now, if we're talking about Verizon, on the other hand, C-band has been a life change, like a literal network saver for Verizon. They were very, very congested in Pittsburgh. And C-band has helped to offload so much traffic, making the LTE network feel revitalized and useful again. And then as far as T-Mobile goes, no amount of spectrum additional is going to help T-Mobile in Pittsburgh at the moment, because T-Mobile's problem in Pittsburgh is not a spectrum issue. It is an issue of tower placement and backhaul. So in the long term, I'm excited for those prospects, especially as network habits change and especially as we see more devices added, whether that be because of fixed wireless demanding more bandwidth, or maybe it's smart vehicles or whatever else that might be connected to the networks. It's great. And the nerd in me will obviously look forward to testing it. But at the moment, there are more difficult challenges that the carriers need to address that Spectrum can't really fix for them, with the exception of Verizon, who was Spectrum starved. Like if I had to give you a picture of how I look at the playing field right now, I actually look at modern day current T-Mobile kind of like Sprint at the moment. And by that I mean this. Sprint had a lot of potential, right? They had all that sweet spectrum, but they had no money. And T-Mobile is falling into this same issue right now. They have lots of potential, but they lack the resources, not even just monetarily speaking, but from a workforce standpoint as well. They don't have enough engineers. They don't have enough vehicles. They don't have enough X, Y, and Z to actually execute and make use of this potential. Like T-Mobile's kind of like that gifted student, but they didn't get the opportunity to actually, live up to the potential that was there. And so that's the reason why we see T-Mobile's network build be so inconsistent on a market-to-market basis, right? Markets where T-Mobile actually puts in the money, like your Denvers, your Longmonts, stuff like that, T-Mobile looks great. You're getting the incredible speeds. Seems like latency tends to be a little bit better. Everything looks right. Come to Pittsburgh, 5G UC doesn't mean anything. It's just an icon. You might get great speeds. You might get 700 meg, or you might get like 10. And even if you're getting the 700 meg over here, you still can't do a FaceTime call. Like, it's not changing anything.
Yeah, but it's fast, Dennis. It's a fast channel. Like when you look at spectrum depth and you look at the size of that channel, I mean, it's 100 megahertz here. And
Yeah,
then
I
along
can.
with the LTE that they're aggregating with it, I mean, it is fast, man. I very frequently, the 300, 400, 500, 600 megabit speed tests indicate a lot of available throughput.
Yes, it is fast. I'm not saying it's not fast in the times where it is. What I'm saying is that a speed test doesn't correlate to actual usefulness. I still can't. My call quality hasn't improved. In fact, I'd argue it's been worse. My ability to do basic stuff like watch a YouTube video, right? Still buffers. Insert other task that you want to insert for phone usage. None of it has really gotten better with T-Mobile since 2018, 17. And I know it's the same in your market, Sneed,
Yeah,
because we've had FaceTime calls and they
right. I
drop.
mean, those issues are well documented. I'm just looking at this from a standpoint of, here's T-Mobile with this huge portfolio of spectrum assets, and they have used it to their advantage. As they've upgraded more and more sites, they've made their home internet available to more people. They've won all these awards from like OpenSignal and Ookla. The root metrics shows improvement. They've won some markets now, including Cleveland. So when I look at all these things, the spectrum advantage has paid out in terms of actual metrics. But I think what's going to start to happen, and this is why I wanted to do this podcast and introduce this topic, is once blocks B and C clear for C-band, the advantage, I mean, it becomes infinitesimal. To say like, okay, well, T-Mobile's got 200 megahertz of upper mid-band. Well, Verizon's got 160, 190, if you count CBRS, and they're going to go N48 next year. So what are we talking about here? I mean, AT&T's carrier aggregation setups are legendary, from band 30 to band 29, which are both supplemental. Then you have their primaries like band 2 and band 66, which in many places they own 20 by 20 paired, right? And then they've got additional low band that nobody can touch. Band 14 is 10 by 10 national. Band 12 here, it's 15 by 15. I don't know what it is everywhere else. I feel like it's probably at least that much, right? So my point is everything that has been to T-Mobile's advantage for the last 2 years, that window is starting to close already. The moment that C-band cleared, Verizon started to alleviate their congestion, right? The things that people said were the issues with Verizon. It's congested, band 13 only, yada, yada. They went through all these things. Well, instantly, Verizon starts hanging radios and antennas, and the congestion is alleviated, right? Same thing for AT&T, where they have high market share. They've built their C-band. Moose, it's made a huge difference, right?
Oh yeah, here in Dallas, huge improvements.
Sneed, let me put this to you another way that's more direct. I'm trying to get to the core crux here that T-Mobile has lost their chance to basically dominate the 5G era. They did not execute on the 5G stimulus package, as you phrased it as, to get them into that place. Did they improve their network overall? Sure. In certain use cases from a testing standpoint, depending on the testing done, did they manage to get some awards? Sure. Was any of it anything that gave them a meaningful lead, one that would actually prevent their competitors from catching up to them so they could actually dominate the 5G era like Verizon dominated the LTE era? No.
Well, from a network standpoint, I mean, your what you've highlighted as their deficiencies don't really revolve around the speed and capacity availability, right? So like you've highlighted back end issues, you've highlighted, systemic national networking concerns. It's not really the capacity that you're concerned about. Yours is pretty much everything else. But those are difficult things to address, Dennis.
Well,
Like
I feel like they're all
building
one in this,
sites,
but it's all
where you don't previously have sites. That's much more challenging than going up to a pre-existing and putting up antennas and radios.
But it's all one and the same, though, Sneed. Like, this is a phrase I use all the time, right? Your network is only as fast as the weakest link, right? Like, let's go with home internet, for example. I have openly gave Fios crap for their poor peering on numerous occasions. I have done that. It doesn't matter if I get gig when testing a Verizon Fios server if everything else that I want to connect to on the open wide web can't get gig. That's not useful to me, right? In the same vein, T-Mobile might be able to get 700 meg when testing to a T-Mobile local server, but if the moment I try to connect to Apple servers to do a FaceTime call, it's throttling is the wrong word here, but like if it's slowed down to the point where I can't even maintain a FaceTime call, one of the most basic applications that tends to be very friendly thanks to its adaptive bitrate and other factors, then is that useful? Is that real capacity that was added, or is it just a number for lack of a better word? Like, I don't know. You'd have to answer that for me, but like to me, a good network, real capacity being added is when you build a cell site, you run fiber to it with say 10 gig backhaul, something that wasn't commonly seen in the LTE era. That way you can make the most efficient use of the additional spectrum that you're putting on air. And when you put that additional spectrum on air, ideally you would be doing we'd be getting closer to the point where we have standalone core, so you could do some level of network splicing and doing real things that weren't possible in the LTE era. Because up until this point, and this stands for all the carriers, to be perfectly blunt, we've been seeing LTE performance. I'm taking a little homage from Ricky, wherever you are, my friend, but the levels of performance that we've been seeing from 5G midband was achieved during the LTE era. It's just more consistent and more widely available at this point.
Well, I mean, it's good points, valid concerns from a consumer. I totally agree. The one thing I will say, though, we were just looking at spectrum position as the topic. Dennis highlighted a lot of things that were outside of that spectrum focus, but that was kind of the focus of the convo. Moose, the intelligence is there. The channels are getting wider. They're getting deeper. We're going to see more and more capacity. I think people are going to be really surprised with what AT&T brings to the table Q3 once they're able to turn on the DoD spectrum, and then Q4 once they free up, and make more spectrum available through the B block. And then we know already Verizon is working on phase 2 of early clearance, which is 30 PAs for block B. Right. So as they're doing that, T-Mobile is probably preparing their block C deployment, right? But they only have it in certain places. I think their emphasis is going to be, how do we get radios that'll do both the 3.7 and the 3.45? Let's climb these towers once, put up the single radio, single antenna, and call it a day, right?
How is that going to work, Sneed? Because right now, the current Snapdragons on the market can only do 3-way carrier ag on 5G with midband frequencies. So, in a lot of places right now where T-Mobile's been doing upgrades, they've been doing N4100 megahertz and then carrier aggregating that with like 40 additional megahertz at N41, right? Mm-hmm. So how exactly is this carrier aggregation going to work for T-Mobile in areas where they do have C-band and DoD spectrum?
Well, what we can start anticipating is the next generation of modems to probably go for carrier aggregation. So in that instance, you're going to get N41. And I guess depending on the market, you could see like 2 channels of N41. And then both DoD and C-band are N77. So that's a single carrier for T-Mobile. That's not 2 carriers. Right? So they're going to have, in some places they'll have C-band, but in all places they're going to have DoD. So that's really only a single carrier.
I did the theory crafting with Sneed the other day. So hear me out. Let's pick Dallas, right? AT&T market, right? Okay. Mm-hmm. You have 100 megahertz of N77 3.7. Okay. That's one lane of a highway. Okay. Well, second lane of a highway will be the additional 40 from the DoD. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So you got 2 N77s, Moose.
Right. Correct. 2 N77s. Right. Okay. 2 lanes. Third lane. Okay. Will either be band 2 or band 30.
So, Moose, why do you go band 30 in that? Because I see band 2 and band 66 as being the candidates.
Well,
Like for example, Verizon's going to N66 that for sure.
oh yeah, of course. I just feel like N30 is just too hot, dude. It's way too hot.
I mean, it's only a 10 by 10, but you feel like it's going to be important there.
Oh yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
But why?
Yeah.
But Moose, like, why would they choose N30 over N2 though? Like, because like N2, in my experience, has better range characteristics, which I'd imagine AT&T, if they're going to do like some 5G standalone, they're going to want that for their uplink.
Well, he's got it though. He's got the N2 in there, and then he's got the the additional 10 megahertz band 30. The thing about band 30, Dennis, is it was specifically designed for capacity support. It was never a coverage band, right?
Yeah.
So, and it also, like, when you're within certain range, it's got some killer MIMO too. Like, you hit the 256 QAM. Like, Dennis, how frequently do you connect to band 30? It's pretty fast.
Very frequently. That's the reason why I'm able to see consistently like 250 plus at my house.
Yeah. So see, I think going N30 is a great idea, but you need a radio update.
Yeah.
And none of those radios are up. So that's going to be next climb, right, Moose?
Yeah. That's right.
It's not this climb. I can guarantee you, every single tower crew I've talked to, I've asked them about band 30, and they're essentially leaving it alone, or they're adding it where it wasn't before. So there is no discussions, and there's no N30 gear going up. I can guarantee you that.
So, circling back to the crux of the main question, which was spectrum holding, Sneed and Moose, which carrier do you favor as having the best spectrum portfolio going into the 5G era at this point?
I think the argument starts with T-Mobile having the most bandwidth. I think it starts there. It's just numbers.
Moose?
It's interesting. I think from a just better overall spectrum portfolio, I think Verizon has the better N77 compared to an N41 of T-Mobile. But
if things work out for T-Mobile, Moose, and they get the white space licenses, they could turn up power on N41, right? That now it becomes a formidable opponent to N77.
Right.
But I mean, there's a lot of things that have to happen. Spectrum Auction 108 has to come up and work out in their favor. Yeah. So I get you there. I see what you're saying with Verizon.
Yeah.
For me, it's AT&T. And hear me out on the why.
Oh, damn.
The reason why is because out of all the carriers, AT&T, even though they had skinnier channels, has more spectrum to play with, which gives them options for doing standalone 5G and being able to have enough spectrum to maintain their LTE network. Like in the case of Verizon, for example, right? They're not going to be able to touch their bread and butter band 13 to repurpose that for 5G. Not standalone for the foreseeable future, right? T-Mobile, same.
Quick question on that.
Go ahead.
Quick question on that. Do you anticipate, and this is going to be very controversial, I'm about to say, but I need to know what both of you, because you just mentioned something, right, about band 13.
Mm-hmm.
Do you anticipate LTE will never go away?
Not never.
The reason why I bring it up is because there have been certain people, customers, like you've seen with the whole 2G to 3G migration, 3G to 4G migration, a lot of machines and all this stuff that are, taking a long time to upgrade. I have a very strong feeling that LTE is going to stay here throughout the entire 5G era. It will never get decommissioned to the same level as 3G is getting decommissioned.
Well, here's the thing, Moose. Here's the thing. 3G was clearly outdated, very limited, and just didn't have longevity. There was no life left in 3G. The ceiling was already hit. The bandwidth was maxed out. The technologies for antennas and radios was maxed out. There was nowhere else to go. You were going to be banging your head into a wall trying to improve 3G. That's why everybody was so excited to move to LTE, because of things like carrier aggregation and because of things like 256 QAM, right? And MIMO. That all came with LTE, Moose. That was not available on 3G. Moving to LTE was crucial to support the bandwidth needs, to support the video demand that customers were using and putting the strains on the networks. Now, what 5G is going to do, and this is why LTE won't fade very soon, is because LTE can still carry a large portion of traffic. Suffice that the carrier aggregation combos are there, it's still very good. But what 5G enables you to do is get some really wide channels, which is what LTE couldn't do. Like, take, for example, CBRS band 48. You can go 20 by 20 by 20 by 10. You could literally go 70 megahertz, right? 20 by 20 by 20 by 10. With one single carrier of 5G, I can go 100 megahertz, which is already 30 megahertz more than 4 channels of CBRS. So you see the limitation is very clear in the technology. Now when we start looking at millimeter wave, now what are we talking about? 100 by 100 by 100 by 100. It's 8 carrier aggregation right now. What happens when we go 10 carrier next year? And we start seeing 1,000 megahertz of N260 on Verizon, 39 gigahertz. We're going to be seeing like 5 gigabits per second, 6 gigabits per second. And once the MIMO improves on the millimeter wave gear, the radio gear, we're going to start seeing like 8 gigabits per second. You can't do any of that with LTE. LTE is fine. It's good. It can carry situational traffic when 5G isn't available yet and it hasn't been upgraded on certain sites, right? Or maybe it can do certain specific tasks on certain devices. It doesn't need to be sunsetted right away, but there is no way, no how it is going to carry the mail in the future of the network. It's good, right? But it's not the future, you know?
So, Moose, to answer your question, I don't think it's never. If I had to give you a prediction, the prediction would be that it will last for at least the next 10 years. And the only thing that would change the date in which it decides to get sunsetted will come down to how quickly people convert over to 5G / corporations convert over to 5G use. And secondarily, also equally important, is how difficult of a time do the carriers have getting more mid-band spectrum.
Do you guys want me to tell you a quick secret?
Well, before you do, let me just finish my thought. Yeah. If mid-band spectrum is constrained and we're seeing like the last of the auctions and this is what the carriers have to live with, then I can absolutely see them refarming most of the LTE spectrum with the exception of like the 10 megahertz of like low band just to keep LTE alive, similar to what they did with 3G refarming, like with band 2, for example, with T-Mobile. Go ahead, Moose.
Okay. You want to know why T-Mobile is never going to win an enterprise? Never.
Because they don't have a competent LTE network.
Because they are refarming their LTE network way too quickly for enterprises. Enterprises literally are saying you need to guarantee in this contract that you are not going to decommission your LTE network for at least 15 years. Boom.
But then I think what T-Mobile's approach becomes is we're going to be the new enterprise. We'll lock down new accounts. You know, we're not going to support those that need the LTE backbone or whatever.
Right, but then here's the problem, right? What you're essentially saying is that you're forcing the industry to move to 5G.
Well, you're not going to get those customers, is what I'm saying, Moose.
Exactly. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We're on the same page.
They're just not going to qualify.
Well, here's a hot take. Here's a hot take. Corporations that aren't willing to change with the times as far as technology go tend to be corporations that aren't doing too hot as far as business goes in the economy. So I don't actually think T-Mobile's making the wrong decision in saying, no, we're not going to operate this more expensive and more inefficient version of the technology. We're all in on the more efficient and more ample supplied 5G technology. It makes more sense from a cost standpoint for
You
T-Mobile.
may think that as a consumer thinking about it as an enterprise, but let me tell you another secret. A lot of these companies, we're not talking about phones when they do these contracts. Just let me be very clear
Yeah,
of what
we're
I
talking
mean.
about IoT devices.
We're talking about IoT devices, correct. And IoT devices are cheaper on LTE than 5G for the foreseeable future, especially because of the chip shortage. You know that more than I do. So when you say that statement, it's too future focused, in my opinion, because the reality of the situation is that they're trying to cut costs everywhere. And if the LTE modem is doing its job, then the LTE modem is doing its job and it's good enough.
Yeah, it's so Moose. I mean, first off, cost, that's not necessarily true. Right now it's true, but when 5G becomes the de facto of where all production is going from like a chip standpoint, you're going to see a repeat of what happened back in like the 2G era, where like 2G components started getting more expensive to replace because they were being made in smaller quantities. Costs went up because the fabs that were making those 2G chips even got shut down as everyone went over to smaller techs like 7 nanometer and 5 nanometer and so forth and so on. But secondarily, and more importantly here, Internet of Things devices, there's a lot of them. They don't require a lot of bandwidth. They generally only care about battery efficiency for the most part. That's like their main concern is power efficiency
and responsiveness to the network.
And 5G answers both of those problems. I definitely can see corporations being hesitant to upgrade, but at the end of the day, I'm going to repeat what I said. Companies that don't move with the changing of the times tend to be the companies that don't stick around. So I think T-Mobile's actually making the smart decision. They're going where the future is, not trying to. They're being for once. I'm going to say they're actually thinking more with foresight. They're thinking about the long-term growth potential. It doesn't make sense to invest any more money into the LTE network, and it does make sense to take spectrum from it and put it on something that's more efficient and more operationally friendly to operate, and just leave the bare bones, like say 5 megahertz, for those legacy customers. And if that doesn't meet their needs, that's all well and good and fine. T-Mobile will be happy to get the up and comers who are down to have the best 5G experience possible for their needs.
I think it would actually make sense for T-Mobile to expedite the upgrading of said devices. So like Moose was talking about these older devices, like, if T-Mobile's like, hey, we'll subsidize this, we'll give you breaks here, we'll help expedite this process, decommissioning old gear, getting you new gear. Once those devices become readily available and supply is ample, I think you can address that. Get people upgraded, turn in all that stuff, get it to recycling, repurposing parts and metals and all that, and just moving forward with a more efficient strategy. I like it too. But what Moose is talking about is Moose is looking at it from a business standpoint. That's how 99% of businesses operate. How long, how much life can I get out of this? Because I need ROI at like 100%. I'm not trying to take any losses here. So what he brings up is legitimate. And I think Moose is giving you that big company think. We think as consumers and we think innovation, but that's what Moose brings to the table. Big company think.
Yeah, I get big company think, like I do. I understand Moose's point. I guess what I'm trying to defend here is because they're both of what we're saying is the same thing. I'm just defending T-Mobile's decision,
Yeah.
is what I'm saying.
It's more future proof for sure.
Like in the end, T-Mobile's decision makes the most sense. Whether that takes 10 years to come to fruition or 5 years to come to fruition will depend on different factors. But I'll say this, since we're talking about ROI, companies that had legacy 2G devices that are trying to hold on for dear life are
typically bad companies.
or what I was going to say was, are more likely to replace that with a 5G piece of equipment than they are with an LTE piece of equipment if they're
At this
even,
stage of the game, correct.
halfway competent. So
Yeah.
Here's a
T-Mobile,
question though,
yeah.
because I wanted to ask you, Dennis, the the bare minimum LTE that we're gonna see, because I don't think 5x5 is gonna cut it, since there's still so many customers still on LTE only phones. I personally believe that band 12, 13 are still going to be LTE only for the next 5 years. But so I'm thinking that a 30 megahertz combined slice of LTE, whatever combination, 30 megahertz is going to be what is for the foreseeable future, in like for the next 5-7 years. That's what it's going to end up being. What do you think?
So I mean, you're pretty much on the head. I mean, it's going to be phases.
You're giving them
but
one mid-band channel and you're giving them one low-band channel.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be in phases, but the way I see it playing out goes like this. Verizon, 10 megahertz of band 13 stays on LTE until LTE gets decommed, essentially. And then as far as the mid-band goes, Verizon may keep like 20 megahertz of CBRS or something like that. AT&T is going to be a little different. I see them keeping both bands 12 and band 14 for low band on air for LTE because of the FirstNet contract. And as far as any mid band frequencies go, they may keep band 2 entirely just on air for that purpose, like 10 megahertz of it on the LTE side, or do like NSA with it essentially. And then T-Mobile, I don't see them moving band 12 over to 5G. So the 5 megahertz of band 12 will be their low band. And I see them actually moving over all of band 71 over to 5G. So it'll be band 12 for their low band, and then like maybe 10
It's gonna be so bad, Dennis.
and maybe like 10 megahertz of band 2.
It's gonna be so bad.
I'm saying that T-Mobile does like 15 megahertz on the low, like for LTE. So 15. What did I say for AT&T? Like 40,
30
and 30, respectively.
Yeah, I don't. All that sounds terrible. You really want to be on 5G at that point. As they start to reduce bandwidth on LTE channels, it's time to move along.
I'm just saying that's how I see it, because I can't see Verizon. Like, I can't see Verizon keeping band 66 on LTE, for example. It just doesn't make sense. Like, they're gonna put that on 5G.
Well,
And
they may just be waiting for new NR, MIMO radios.
what I'm saying is that they're gonna put that on the standalone. There's no way.
Yeah, I'm with you, Dennis. I agree.
The only reason why I said CBRS stays on LTE is because of the fact that there's open licenses where it's more plentiful. Where if Verizon
band 13 stays LTE though, Dennis.
Well, I said that band 13 won't go over because they have N5 in a lot of places for their low band 5G needs. So
yeah, and then here's another question, right? When will we start seeing a drastic reduction of LTE and migrating it to 5G?
It's going to be dependent on how readily available future auctions are for spectrum for the carriers. If it's far and few and in between, then it happens faster.
I think there's a bigger factor than that, Dennis.
How quickly traffic moves over to the 5G side, i.e., when do we get to the point where, say, 50 to 60% of the consumer base has 5G capable phones?
Yeah, it's phones adoption, but it's really traffic adoption. Like how much traffic is on the 5G channels, for example. Like, I don't know, indications from T-Mobile is that it's over 50% is now 5G traffic. I think what that is, though, I think that tells us there's a lot of 5G users, right, for mobile, but I think it also includes the home internet users too, right? Like that's a 500 gigabyte, terabyte customer who's on N71, who's on N41. They're calling that, 5G traffic, which it is, but that's why I think it's a little high right now. It's accelerated, but then they're justified, right, to start moving spectrum along when they start to see 70% of traffic now on the 5G channels.
I think one other factor that's going to matter is whichever if one of the big carriers decides to move forward with going through the process and they don't see any pushback from the consumer base, like i.e. we don't see like an uptick in churn, then I think the other carriers follow suit as well.
Yeah, it's a fine line. Nikki brought up some great points in the live chat. I want to kind of read some of these and address them. One of the things that he mentioned was, he talked about densification, and having a lot of spectrum is great, but you really have to build it. I've always looked at spectrum licenses like bullets and ammunition, but you need guns, right? You need pistols and bazookas and cannons and all of that stuff that's like cell towers and CRAN. I don't, like in my particular market, T-Mobile doesn't really do CRAN. AT&T does really nice CRAN, and Verizon, second to none. They really do have an incredible grid of millimeter wave nodes plus LTE small cells, and they've got just a large portfolio of things like cbrs and band 48 for LTE support. They also do the millimeter wave nodes, so we've got tons and tons of sites that are doing N260, the 39 gigahertz that's ultra fast and ultra wideband and all that. I mean, I'm just looking at that here, right? I don't know if there's markets where T-Mobile is starting to do small cells in CRAN, but that's going to be so crucial in 5G. And, Nikki brings up the point. Well, how much mid-band do you really need today, right? I think today the carriers do have enough mid-band. They just need to densify. The hardest thing to do is build a cell tower. The easiest thing to do is upgrade an existing tower. An existing tower, you get a permit, you order the radios, you contract the work to have it installed. The engineers tune it, people are connecting, right? Building a tower site from scratch, co-locating on a site, a little bit less cumbersome, but still there's process to all of that. So they're just going to have to embrace the grind. You're going to need more sites. You're going to need CRAN, and the carriers that embrace the grind and understand what it takes. And I think Moose has brought this up. Dennis, you bring it up as well. And Nikki with the comments, CapEx, you have to spend so much money. And right now the carriers are going through it. Like they're going to try really, really hard to not decrease CapEx, because if they decrease CapEx, they don't hit their POPs build for 5G, and they don't want to fall behind their competitors. Right now, T-Mobile's leading the way with POPs for mid-band, right? And Verizon's trying to close that gap, and AT&T is trying to close that gap. And if they reduce their CapEx, then they fall behind, right? They don't get to their mark, whatever their mark is, 75 million POPs, 175 million, whatever the POPs are, right? So, Nikki is right. You can't be macro focused only. You can't be mid-band focused only. It's actually not even cost effective to go mid-band only. It's not capacity effective to go mid-band only. Like the term layer cake is a joke. Like the fact that, T-Mobile was talking about like layer cakes and birthday cakes and zebra cakes and clown cakes and all that. But the truth is you do need a trifecta, right? You need lower frequencies, you need middle frequencies, and you need millimeter wave. And you cannot properly network cost effectively or capacity effectively without that trifecta. You simply cannot do it.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely going to need it all. Like we need all spectrum to be on air. We need densification to occur as well. I don't necessarily think that millimeter wave is going to be an absolute requirement for another 3 years outside of like dense urban areas. Like for suburbia and rural, mid-band is shining, and I don't see a significant enough uplift in traffic to the point where millimeter wave will absolutely be a requirement, assuming that the carriers actually deploy efficient network management practices and don't try to sell like, 500 megabit speed tiers or something like that for their home internet users. Like, i.e., if they're just promising 100 meg as what you can expect from fixed wireless, like 100 by 10, because I think that's what T-Mobile kind of targets, if I remember correctly, then that's achievable with the current mid-band holdings and a macro-based approach. If you want to sell higher, more capacitive speed tiers, then millimeter wave becomes a requirement literally everywhere, pretty much.
Yeah, but I'm also looking at millimeter wave as a way to keep my mid-band channels clear.
Right.
If my N77 drops to an average 50 megabits per second, the only way to deal with that is millimeter wave.
Agree. And I guess what I'm touching on is 50 megabits per second on N77 actually a problem in the carrier's eyes?
Oh yeah.
Is it?
Oh, that is Moose. Are the alarms going off if N77 drops to 50 megabits?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we're talking not on edge cell. We're talking like full 5 bars line of sight, right? Like that's when it's like, oh damn. Because if you add a couple more, tens of people all doing something, it's right there.
But let me ask it again. Is it? And then I want you guys to keep in mind this important fact. Carriers say that LTE is only meant to guarantee 2 meg. So let me ask again. Is it a problem in the carrier's eyes if 5G mid-band spectrum drops to 50 meg in capacity during peak traffic?
Yes.
Oh, by the way, I wanted to ask you guys, what do you think is the new congestion metric for 5G? I want you to guess because I was shocked. I was like, "What the WTF?" Literally.
What do I want it to be, or what do I think the carrier said?
Okay, well,
no, what it is.
Let's go back a little bit. Moose, what is the metric for LTE?
So LTE, right, is 2 Mbps or lower. That is a congested sector.
Then that means 5G is probably 10.
I'm gonna guess that 5G is 25.
It's probably 10 or 20. Yeah. It's about 10 times more. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, go ahead, Moose. Tell us.
So you said 10 or 20 for 5G?
I'm saying
10,
25.
10 times LTE. Yeah.
Okay. So I heard, and I was laughing, dude. I was like, no way. 35 by 10 is the metric of congestion on a 5G connection.
Okay, so I was pretty close.
Yeah.
So going back to what we said then originally,
low standards, right, Dennis?
50 meg would not be considered a quote unquote problem in the carrier's eyes.
No, it wouldn't.
Okay, so my point was there. Like,
well, how long does it take to get a spectrum auction, Dennis?
Probably like 4 years.
So you think that once they hit 50 megabits, they're not going to sound off the alarms?
I don't think so.
They got 4 years till the next spectrum auction. You think that they're going to be happy about this?
I didn't say they'd be happy. I'm just saying I don't necessarily like. Here's the thing, Sneed. Okay, so remember how you were telling me about corporate view, right? Mm-hmm. Corporation view doesn't care if the quote unquote experience for the customer is degraded unless the customer actually makes it a problem by speaking with their wallet. If 50 meg is good enough and no one's crying or complaining, then corporation generally isn't going to be proactive in investing the $10 or so thousand, or actually let's call it $100,000 to get enough millimeter wave sites up to actually make a difference as far as speed performance goes. And generally speaking, when we look at the telecom industry as a whole, I'm talking every company here, most telecom companies are reactive, in their network building approach. Like, as much props as we like to give to Verizon or AT&T for, adding capacity in X, Y, and Z areas, and like I love giving props to AT&T for adding 5G and all that stuff in Pittsburgh, right? I guarantee you somewhere behind the scenes, it was a reactive approach. Like, there is a reason why I believe AT&T put 5G up at that movie theater down in Monaco, right? It wasn't just because, it's fun and easy. They did it because I'm sure They saw that there is a fracking plant with thousands upon thousands upon thousands of employees there that are just hitting that cell site harder than anything they would have seen before in that area. And they probably were like, you know what? We're going to have to do this to suit our enterprise customer needs. They probably have some type of deal or something over there.
All right. But your process, your way of thinking, I feel is LTE centric. With 5G, Dennis, like specifically, I'm going to focus on Verizon and T-Mobile here. They have fixed wireless access subscribers on any given sector at any given time. If a tower site starts dipping in and around 50 megabits, and that site has been modernized within the last 365 days, they're going to stop adding home subscribers immediately. They are going to close the additions of qualifications for addresses. And this is why I was saying with LTE, you're 100% right. But with 5G and the fact that those two companies are doing fixed wireless access, they are going to sound those alarms much sooner than you think. And they're probably going to discontinue the addition of any fixed wireless subscribers on demand. Like on the highest order, they are going to manage those sectors. 20 users on there, 15 users on there, that's it. LTE, the traffic is picking up just on the mobile use case. We either have to increase backhaul. And by the way, Dennis, could you imagine a site that's on microwave backhaul? You can't increase the backhaul. There is no relief in sight. You can't run fiber. There might be a fiber provider in the area who doesn't have plans on installing fiber for 3 years. And that project might be $20 million. So there is no relief in sight. You're on 500 meg backhaul because it's microwave.
So first off, I agree they'll stop selling fixed wireless, but I'm still sticking by my point that they don't go in and invest in millimeter wave either, is what I'm trying to tell you. Like, case in point, let's look at T-Mobile for a second, okay? T-Mobile, for the longest time, congested beyond repair at my house, and yet they still give me the option to sign up for T-Mobile Home Internet. They don't deny me. It's still there. Like, Sneed, I just ran a speed test right now. It is currently 8:50 Eastern Standard Time. I got 62.5 down, 2.18 up with a ping time of 118 milliseconds and a jitter of 14. And I can be a T-Mobile Home Internet subscriber if I wanted to. T-Mobile's not denying me. Clearly, I had to be someone that would hurt their network experience, and yet they're still trying to sell it to me. And they're not adding any more sites. There's no permits for any builds. There's no small cells that are going to enter this community. T-Mobile's still selling it. The only way T-Mobile does actually do something to fix it is if a bunch of customers in the area got the service, started calling and complaining, and then rightfully so left the service altogether and said, T-Mobile, you're not going to get my money until X is fixed. That's how it happens.
If I'm AT&T, Verizon, or T-Mobile, and 90% of the days of the year, 365 days in 2022, the site was maybe not congested, but at 90 plus capacity used, I'm planning an upgrade. That site must be, or there has to be a cell split somewhere. A tower site within a half a mile, a C-RAN in the area. Moose, talk to me, bro.
Yeah, so I mean, if a sector, if that area, right, if that sector is showing significant capacity constraints, right, because there's so many more users, there has to be C-RAN. There has to be C-RAN, straight up. Or if you don't have a C-RAN, remember this, guys, and Sneed said this so many times. Dennis, you said this so many times. If you don't put a C-RAN, adding a macro is going to take significant amount of time and more money, mega money, because you're going to have to figure out if you can even get another site nearby. Like, for example, ladies and gentlemen, in Southern California, you will be impressed that there's now officially 6 LAX macros. Another one. And you know how long it took to add that 6th one? 5 years.
Yeah.
5 years because of the damn unions and all this other minutia. I call it BS because you know that's because You need it for public safety, dog. You do.
That's
You
true.
need macros. And in a situation like that, you can't do a macro, or sorry, a small cell, or CRAN. But again, it goes back to the situation of a macro is going to take a significant amount of time. And by the way, there's certain situations where like a Sprint macro was like adjacent to a T-Mobile macro, right? And that's not doing anybody any good. Be right back. I'm going to take a phone call really quick.
No worries. Sneed, I want to set up a situation for you real quick, okay? And you tell me how this plays out.
All
right. T-Mobile deploys, or Verizon, pick your poison, deploys a nice 5G macro site for a nice little suburban town whose only internet option was DSL because cable didn't want to build out to them, okay? Population of about 1,000 people. All those people in that town, because now they're getting that great service, are T-Mobile customers with the T-Mobile Home Internet, so they got their mobile and their home internet. Cell site gets congested, right? We're getting like 50 meg. But they're the only home internet option, aside from DSL with 1.5. Does T-Mobile actually go in and invest, or do they not care because there's no other competition to make them do otherwise? You tell me.
Can they add more customers by adding capacity?
They've already got all the customers that they care about having. Adding any additional customers won't give them a return on investment for the money needed to be spent until the next 35 to 40 years from now.
35 to 40 years.
I mean, that's a real estimate. I mean, a macro costs real money. Yeah, and then there's also the operational expenses for maintaining the secondary macro because T-Mobile doesn't own their own fiber.
But so like typical tower upgrades, like antennas, radios, Moose, what are we talking? 15, 20 grand?
He had to take a phone.
Well, I mean, it depends on the situation. I mean, like, remember that one cell site that we were looking at by my parents, right? That upgrade, which was a full retro, we're talking 10 gig backhaul, okay? Upgrade the entire baseband unit and the cabinet. There was a brand new cabinet, right? You know, where that holds the batteries, the generator. You know what I'm talking about, Sneed?
I do. Yeah.
Everything was fully retro, and more steel on the macro, more camouflage, 4 antennas instead of 2. So it was a full retro, and it only cost $65K total.
So I think so. Like Dennis, with your analogy, I think it just depends on the cost of the upgrade. The building of a tower site, I'm with you 100%. I don't think they do that. An upgrade, I think, is more likely, especially if the customers are there to support the upgrade.
Yeah, but we're missing my point. So I use T-Mobile as the example here because it's in the Moose's point, 65,000 upfront to upgrade the site, but then you're also paying on either a yearly, quarterly, or monthly basis for the increased backhaul.
That's OpEx. That's cost of doing business, Dennis.
Right, but now you have to double that by 2.
That's like me complaining about having to carry cups because I sell Coke and soda.
That's not the point here. I'm saying
it is the point. It's all operations. It's all built in. I get it.
But if you double it by 2 now by having to add a secondary site to offload traffic, or multiple, or adding multiple millimeter wave small cells.
No, I'm with you on that, Dennis. I'm with you. I'm 100% on your train of thought there. Building additional sites is a major challenge where the ROI doesn't call for it. Upgrading of a site, I think, is much more likely and encouraged in many instances because the ROI can be recovered pretty quick.
Right. So we agree. Upgrading easy, good, because they were paying those
much
costs
more,
anyway.
Much more likely, right?
Yes. But what I'm saying is, to your point, going back to the crux here, if I'm seeing 50 meg in an area, do I just stop selling extra home internet subscribers? Do I not care and keep selling home internet subscribers like T-Mobile currently is doing? Or do I go in and upgrade proactively? The answer is less likely to be the proactive. Excuse me, I used the wrong word here. Not upgrade. Add additional cell sites proactively to add capacity. That's the least likely option. The former two that I mentioned, is the more likely option how the companies operate, unless there is ample complaints that actually leads to hurting their wallet. Or number 2, unless there's meaningful competition, which goes back to customers speaking with their wallet and leaving for the competition. And the fact of the matter is that for rural Americans still really only have, in my eyes, one real option, and that's whoever the fixed wireless provider is. Because in my eyes, Starlink isn't a real competitor. It's super expensive. It's hard to get, if it's even possible to get, and the service is suspect. Cable ain't going out to rural. Fiber sure ain't going out to rural. And DSL is, well, DSL. So fixed wireless ends up being your only option that's actually reasonably affordable. And I don't see multiple carriers building out to the same super rural market super quickly. Like, we just don't normally see that, right? Like, for all intents and purposes, there is a reason why people believe Verizon has the best coverage. And it's because they were, for the longest time, the only carrier to even give any semblance of bars out in the most rural parts of America. AT&T thankfully caught up thanks to the FirstNet deal, but there are still spots with AT&T that they don't have service at, and only Verizon does, and vice versa. And there's very few instances where T-Mobile is the only one to have service in a location. Very few. They might be a couple Sprint sites. Maybe.
Good stuff, Dennis. Moose, did you want to add anything before we pivot?
He's on a phone call, he said.
Alrighty. All right, let's go ahead and transition. We have predictions we have to make, and I hope Moose can get in on time for this one. Let's do our Q2 predictions. Dennis, you ready?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, I'll probably do a dedicated video to this where I'll speak on each of the carriers and I'll do some commentary, kind of looking at Q2 in a holistic approach. You want to look at postpaid, you want to look at prepaid, you want to look at customer retention and churn rate, you want to look at growth, you want to look at ARPU and profitability, and there's so many different factors, right? Which companies are growing, which ones are churning. You know, like for T-Mobile, like the Sprint situation, now it's kind of in the rearview mirror. For AT&T, you know, what's going on with their fiber business along with their wireless. For Verizon, what's going on with fixed wireless? What's going on with consumer versus business? Like, there's so many things there. Let's kind of look at, I guess, AT&T first, just because we'll go in alphabetical order. I feel like AT&T has benefited from a lot of organic growth for the last few years. A lot of questions were, is this sustainable? They were very aggressive in how they were doing promotions with the iPhone 12 and the iPhone 13 generations. They knocked it out of the park. AT&T does not give out free lines. They have very aggressive promotions. Oftentimes you trade in the phone, your old phone, and you get into an entry-level iPhone, right? The iPhone 13, for example. You get it for free. You just got to put it over 36-month installments. People are willing to do it because the phone will be free with the trade-in. Their churn rate has been industry-leading in most quarters. The fiber thing is good for them. I think their penetration rates are in the 30s. I think a lot of what they're focusing on as a company is going to be cost reduction. They're trying to improve margins. Inflationary pressures, they're going to pass that on to consumers. So my prediction is that they're still going to be growing. I think 600,000 net adds, well, smartphone net adds, I think that's a slam dunk. I think 700 is the high end. I think total activations or whatever, total net adds, I think is going to approach 1 million. I think it's going to be really close. It's going to be like 900,000 or something crazy. And fiber is going to continue to shine. It's a big part of their enterprise and business and commercial, and also their residential. I think we'll get a C-band update. I think they'll talk about, like, you know, how the iPhone is going to be important relative to their C-band. I think they get to 100 million pops of C-band by the end of the year. I think people are going to be impressed with the back end of 2022 for them. We'll probably get a 3.45 DoD update. Maybe they'll give us some, you know, disclosures about the whole, like, unlimited instead of unlimited elite, how they went to premium, how the customers responded, the HBO Max loss, how customers responded. I think it's going to be a good rest of the year. I think it's going to be a great Q2 for AT&T. I think they're going to look like winners. They're going to talk about how margins improved and how they're making more money and they're more profitable. That's what I think it's going to sound like. Prepaid, I don't know, 50,000 net ads. Postpaid, let's go 650,000 net ads. Smartphone, 1,000. Let's go 1 million total net ads. Churn rate, let's go with industry best, 0.81. I know it's kind of random, but let's go with 0.81. When you include business, I think it comes up a little bit. All right, so let's do business at like 0.93. So overall, let's do like 0.86 or something. I don't know. I think it's going to be good, and it's going to shock some people because everybody thought that the churn was going to spike. I just haven't seen it because the churn, I think, is going to be from another carrier. But go ahead, Dennis, jump in.
So there's a lot you covered in a very short period of time. As far as churn jumping, I don't see that happening until more Q3, Q4 when the deals start coming in. But with that being said, I need a quick refresher real fast. Refresh my memory. What was AT&T's Q1 net ads? Just refresh my memory, please.
700,000 smartphone net ads.
Gotcha. And then one other small thing I need you to refresh my memory on. What promos were what was like AT&T's major promo for this quarter? Was there any notable promos that were aware of?
Trade in any Galaxy, you get the S22 for free. They were doing, and they continue to do the iPhone. They give you, what is the iPhone, 800 and something for the 13, right? So you basically just got to trade in your old iPhone and then put it over 3 months installments, build credits. You get it for free.
So I see Q2 being a weaker quarter for AT&T this year round. I'm gonna say that their net ads is going to be slightly less than last quarter at like maybe 600,000.
All right, I'm back.
We're talking about the Q2 predictions. I'm doing mine right now. So.
Let's do it.
So I'm gonna say that AT&T. I'm gonna say AT&T was slightly worse than last quarter at like 600,000 net ads. The reason for that is because I don't think Samsung's, especially for AT&T, moves phones for them. And with us getting so close to the next iPhone releases, I feel like people are going to be less willing to switch for a new iPhone as new iPhones come around the corner, kind of deal.
So I have something there, but go ahead.
I think that their total activations, like not net ads, just raw activations, is going to be something crazy high, like 1.2, 1.3 million. Though, like I think they're going to have new activations, like a lot of them, but they're not going to result in higher net ads than what I mentioned. I actually do see
you got a lot of the watches and stuff like that.
Yeah, just different things. I think churn is actually going to be slightly higher for AT&T based off what Roger had said, with AT&T customers being the most price sensitive. I do think that some of the price changes that AT&T had impacted onto their customers across the board will make some of them consider switching.
So you're going to have to tell me where they went then.
I think they went to T-Mobile or like cable. I think they went to cable or T-Mobile.
Okay, so you ready for this? I'm ready to go off. Oh.
Well, hold on. What was the other things you wanted me to? Oh, ARPU. I see this being one of the best ARPU quarters though for AT&T in the company's history. Period. I think the new plan change with removing Elite is going to automatically do so much for them. From a cost,
you think their ARPU goes up $1.50?
What did it go up last quarter?
It went down.
Okay, quarter before that,
it was up
like $1.
Something like, there was one quarter where it almost jumped $2.
I think it's going to be
like year.
I think it's going to be like a $2 jump.
Wow.
I think it's going to be a crazy high jump. I think automatically not having to pay for a bunch of HBO Max licenses instantly frees up a ton of cash flow for them.
I got their ARPU. I got the ARPU coming up around $1.
I think
25 or something.
I think all the net fiber ads that they're going to be having is going to raise ARPU significantly because of the bundling deals that they've been doing. That they've been very aggressive on that side of things. And I think the fact that they haven't been running the kind of crazy promos that they would do in Q3 and Q4, so the people that they are adding is going to also make them more profitable net ads. So, yeah, I'm going with like between $1.50 and $2 ARPU increase.
Nice.
Good,
Go
Moose.
in, Moose.
All right. I am predicting right now, today, 7:15. Okay. Verizon is going to be under 50,000 net ads.
Oh, we haven't talked about any of the other carriers. We're just doing.
Oh no,
AT&T.
I'm already going off. Hold up, hold up. This is mega, okay? Because I've been waiting for this day for a full month.
Yeah.
Okay. Verizon is going to be, for the first time in history, 2 quarters of horrible records of losses. I already have seen it. I have spoken to my buddies. They are scared. They are desperate. Mike Dano's title is not even close to the real situation. Okay? I'm telling you right now, Verizon is in a situation where by the end of this year, they will be announcing layoffs. I am guaranteeing it. Put me on record. Sneed even said, I've been off only by a year with the situation with Verizon. But I'm telling you, it's happening. Verizon is going to lose this year for the first time, 2 quarters in a row, net ads. Number 2, this year will be the first year that they will lose revenue for the first time. I'm predicting this year.
Disagree.
And T-Mobile did not win the net ads game this quarter. I believe that a combination of cable, the combination of cable actually did the most net ads. But from the top 3, AT&T will have the lead. But overall standpoint, right, cable will win the day. But I'm telling you, man, these predictions are sad to say because Verizon is so desperate. They don't even know what to do because it's not a matter of price anymore. It's a matter of, like Sneed and I, we were talking before the show. The reason why people don't want to go to Verizon anymore is because they're nothing special. They're nothing. They are done. What's the difference between T-Mobile and Verizon? Can you name one thing? I'll tell you one thing. Nothing. T-Mobile and Verizon right now are exactly at the same place right now, today, 7:15. And you know what's sad about that? Is that I'm deeply troubled by all the first responders and all those folks that are still on Verizon paying the ridiculous prices because there's nothing special about Verizon anymore, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm gonna have to hard disagree with you, Moose, on
but
a lot of ways.
But those are consumer sentiments that we hear, Dennis.
Not that part, but I'm gonna hard disagree with you about a lot of things you said. I don't understand the logic of why you think Verizon's gonna lose money this quarter when they raise prices across their whole subscriber base, and as someone mentioned in the comments, they doubled their fixed wireless ads. There's no way they're losing revenue this quarter. Do they lose subscribers back to back? I can see that. Net losses and subscribers, sure, but I don't see it being a net revenue loss.
All right, so you guys want to just pivot over to Verizon as a complete next topic here?
Yeah, let's get your final thoughts though on the AT&T piece.
No, I think we covered AT&T pretty good.
Okay.
Well, with Verizon, I think a lot of what Moose said is actually correct about Verizon. So they're not growing in the traditional sense, right? Consumer mobility, they just don't. The retention historically has been very good. The growth has always been slow. The business side has always been a winner. I don't expect that to change. I know that the CEO is leaving and, there's a little bit of whatever there. Big shout out to John. Thanks for the super chat, sir. He said, yeah, hashtag telco poppy, hashtag tech Jesus. Appreciate you, brother. Thanks for the support. Nikki brought up the fixed wireless access subs. It's a vector of growth for them. They make money on fixed wireless access. It's capacity on the network that's otherwise available, so monetize. They added, I think, almost 200,000 customers for fixed wireless last quarter. I expect that number to be a little bit higher this quarter. I think a 240, 250,000 net adds for fixed wireless is a go, whether it's 5G or LTE home, whatever. Mobile consumers, they're all going to Cable Town, man. You know, some have gone to AT&T, some have gone to T-Mobile to save money. I think most of the ones that are cost sensitive are going to Cable Town if they qualify for Spectrum Mobile, Xfinity Mobile. You know, it's all regional based. I think they add like 50,000 net phone ads. I think there's going to be track phone losses. They've got their SIM card issues with like, you know, people that are transitioning from 3G CDMA phones, and also like the network SIM cards with AT&T and T-Mobile. That's an issue. I think this is going to be the first quarter in a long time where Verizon's combined churn rate is going to actually be above 1.0. I think it's going to be like 1.01, 1.1, something like that. And it's going to shock some people because it's been a long time since Verizon had a churn rate like that. It's definitely going to be over 0.9. It's not going to be better than AT&T's. And it's probably going to be the first time in a long time, if ever, we see the churn rate actually higher than T-Mobile's. Because I think T-Mobile's starting to stabilize the Sprint churn. Anybody who's on Sprint who hasn't churned yet, there's few and far in between. If they were going to churn, they already did. So I think that number is coming down. This may be that quarter. We're starting to see Verizon do like loyalty discounts to keep people from leaving the store. You know, one-time discounts to try to close out deals. The economy is inflationary. They're the most expensive carrier. Nothing that they offer is unique anymore. The reliability piece in certain markets may be true. I just don't know how much that matters to people when their bills are expensive. They're willing to take sacrifices in certain ways. Maybe that's the case. I think Hans is on the hot seat. I think Hans is feeling pressure. I think the board is probably discussing things internally about the direction of the company, and Hans probably is going to have to justify his rationale of the direction of the company. If that hasn't already started happening, it will happen very soon. So I see positivity in fixed wireless access. I see negativity in the consumer side. Business will continue to move on moving forward. Moose has gone off the deep end talking about layoffs. Maybe not this quarter, but Moose, I'd say it's definitely a possibility at some point this year. So I'm not saying you're completely out of the realm of the universe. You've been correct on things, just off on the timing. So I respect your opinion. I don't know, man. It's going to be an extremely mixed bag with more negativity for Verizon.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see them having like net ads, or if they
Even if
are
they
there.
add 50,000 subscribers as a net adds, that's still a bad quarter, right, Dennis?
Yeah, I mean, like if they do, it's going to be 50,000. I think the way it's shaping up because of the promos and stuff that went on this quarter, I'm actually picturing a net loss of about 150,000.
Oh, Moose, if
Um,
that happens, what do you do?
If you do 150K negative,
yeah.
see, this is why I keep saying that. Oh, damn. Oh, no. I thought I just got a breaking news update. But yeah, go ahead.
But even though I say that, I don't see them losing revenue. I think fixed wireless, the revenue from fixed wireless and the price increases across the board are going to more than make up for the net losses in subscribers on the consumer side, is what I'm saying here.
They didn't make a big deal about fixed wireless last quarter, though. They had a great quarter for fixed wireless subs, and they like just glazed over it.
Right.
And
And I'm saying that the doubling, because they doubled their fixed wireless. I'm predicting they doubled their fixed wireless ads this quarter. So I'm saying the fixed wireless ads are going to make up for the consumer losses. so that ARPU and revenue actually still increase combined with their price increases they did with like the BS inflationary cost increase and stuff like that. As far as the business side goes, I do see them doing well on the business side, and the reason for that is because of those business customers that are unwilling to upgrade. I believe Verizon has been maintaining their 1X and other things in certain markets to maintain keeping business customers based off certain contracts. So I can see them switching over to them just for those reasons. And I'd say business ads might work out to being like another 100,000 maybe overall, something small. Go ahead, Moose.
Well, I mean, it goes to show you when we are getting intel, right, from people inside Verizon saying that they're quote unquote desperate for any relief. And that I've never heard that before, even with my guys that work at various parts of the industry, right? I mean, Sneed and Tyrone were getting updates of, it's like they're so, I don't know another word for desperate at this time. I have to go on the syllabus or whatever, it's a synonym type of thing, but they are very stressed out, right? They're in duress.
So Moose, let's keep the proper reference here. The frame of this is that Verizon is still serving some of the customers they're losing because they're losing to Xfinity and Spectrum, right?
Yep.
They're still serving them, but at a lesser value.
Right.
And then they do the $30 Welcome Unlimited plan as some kind of an answer to T-Mobile Essentials and Cabletown, right? That's not going to have any impact, at least not until next quarter. That's going to have no impact on Q2, right? So there's no answer to this quarter that Verizon could have said, well, we addressed the customers fleeing to big cable. They haven't really done that yet. I mean, the home internet, the 5G home, the LTE home, is a retention play as much as it is a new revenue stream because they'll offer a 50% discount for having wireless and home as a bundle. I mean, they're doing the same thing with Fios, right? They're applying a small discount. Dennis, is yours is $25 or $30?
They've changed it. My discount is not from that. I got an insider discount, or not an insider, excuse me, loyalty discount with Fios because I don't actually have a Verizon postpaid line under my name. So I don't know what that would be.
Yeah,
anymore.
I'm just looking at it like this is not going to get easier or better for Verizon. Customers that are on Cabletown are going to be using less and less Verizon data, relying more on hotspots and CBRS and small cells. That's coming down the pipeline, Moose, so it's going to hurt.
Yeah, and you see, one of the things that I keep going back to, it might not be this quarter that Verizon has lost revenue year over year, but eventually they will lose revenue because of what you just said right there. Their own customers are going to their quote unquote indirect MVNOs. Like, dude, that's huge. Why am I going to just lose a customer for a lesser value and the customer's still going to be using the same amount of data traffic, etc.? Dude, they did not think through that portion when they did that MVNO deal with Xfinity. I cannot imagine.
I think they underestimated how soon it was going to hurt.
Yes.
I think they knew it was coming, Moose. I just think they were hoping it wouldn't happen for like 10 years. But in fact, it happened in like 3, 4, maybe 5 years. Moose, we're talking about 600, 700,000 net ads probably this quarter.
I think it's closer to 800,000 net ads for cable.
Also, Moose, let's be clear here. Verizon would actually love it if that consumer used the same amount of data they did when they were on Verizon proper.
Oh, of course.
They would love that, Moose. That would actually be a good thing for Verizon because then they'd actually be making money. The problem is when those customers do go over the Cabletown, they're either not using as much data as they used to because they have home internet and stuff, or they're using the same amount of data, but it's not going on the Verizon network because they live in a location where big Cabletown decided to put up their own infrastructure, whether that be in the form of the Wi-Fi hotspots that you automatically connect to based off your
Mhm.
SIM authenticating it, / their own C-band that Cabletown actually has some ownership of.
And we've already seen indications of that, right, Sneed, that they are going to be doing the CBRS, what's it called, small cells. Forgot the term. The one on the strings on the by the poles, right? Sneed?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the strand mounts. There it is. They're going to be
They're going to be
using
putting
strand
those
mounts.
things. They're going to be putting those things everywhere they can.
Yep.
Literally, if they have 5 customers on a block, they're putting up a small cell. The strand mount, it's the simplest form of technology. Moose, I'm hearing it costs a few $100s to deploy.
We're saying cable is or Verizon is?
Cable.
And real quick, you said it's called a strand mount?
Strand mount, yeah.
Yeah, they're the most simplest, fundamental, rudimentary small cell type connection.
Oh,
They
dude, I
literally-
see these all over the place. I just looked
Yes.
up the image of them. Oh my god, they're all over Pittsburgh, dude.
Yes, Dennis, they literally cost them a couple $100. They'll put multiple ones on the same street.
Dude, no. I literally, these strand mounts are so frequent that I basically see one basically every time there's an amplifier.
Every connection, everybody. Yes, that is correct.
Every time there's an amplifier, there's one of these also right next to it.
Mhm. But I'm telling you, man, I just can't stress. People have been telling me that I've been wrong about the eSIM situation. People have been telling me that I've been wrong about the Verizon situation. I've seen it. It's not good. They are losing way too many people. It's not good. Like I'm honestly very worried for them, man.
I'm not really worried though. I feel like going back to what I have hearkened months ago, the US wireless market's very saturated. And while there's going to be some minor shifts here and there, I don't necessarily see subscriber bases changing in any super meaningful way. There might be quarters where there's a little more pain for one than the other, but I don't think Verizon is necessarily doom and gloom in death shape right now. Like a death spiral for Verizon, okay, would be if they spent all this money on Spectrum and they're having net revenue losses and they're having net customer losses and they're not having the ability to make any other additional investments in improving coverage or anything like that to meet their business operational needs. We're nowhere close to that at the moment. Verizon is aggressively outspending either of their competitors as far as the network goes. Their ARPU continues to be going up. Fixed wireless hasn't even begun to reach the point of saturation for them yet. I see Verizon, and when we get to the tail end of things, having anywhere between 10 to 20 million fixed wireless customers by the time we get to like 2025. Like I see it really ramping up for them and being like their major seller. And they kind of end up sitting somewhere in that sphere as far as total home internet subscribers go, between the consumer and business side. And we're not even close to those numbers. I think Verizon hasn't even hit 1 million, have they?
For fixed wireless?
Yeah.
They're probably 300, 400,000 maybe.
Yeah, we haven't even begun.
I mean, if we combine the two queues, that's probably where we're at. No more than
so
half a million.
We haven't even begun to see the actual ramp up of fixed wireless. Like I see that ramping up exponentially to the point where we start seeing quarters where Verizon adds like literally 1 million home internet customers.
Yeah. I see multiple quarters where they do over 300,000. I see the average quarter being, 250,000 net adds. So yeah, I totally agree. Shout out real quick to EM Tech. Thanks for the super chat, sir. Give me more than 720p, damn it. I think there's a lot of people that probably have that same sentiment. You can't get a 1080p plan on Verizon. You literally have to pay for premium streaming to get it up to 1080p or higher. Or you got to be on the ultra wideband portion of the network. All right, so that is true. And then there was another comment. Pete brings up a good point. if you live in a market where there is no 5G ultra wideband, no millimeter wave, no C-band, no CBRS, I can't blame you for going to the lowest plan that Verizon offers. If it's a whole gang of LTE and spotty coverage, but they're the only one that's reliable, I'd downgrade too. I wouldn't even have Start Unlimited. I'd have the Welcome Unlimited, like Pete's saying.
Oh, man. Wouldn't
Or I'd have
that be the
Visible, dog.
opposite? Wouldn't that be the opposite of what you should do? Because priority would matter more in an area that has limited capacity.
I wouldn't even care. It'd just be about calling and texting. I wouldn't even be using my cellular connection for consuming video. Like I would be that reserved to being limited. I would just be like, oh, I'll just watch those videos when I get home. No reason to watch it on my mobile because the service is limited here. It's not fun. If I'm on a band 13 only site, Nick, Dennis, I'm maybe a podcast. My expectations are low if it's band 13 only for a far stretch. If it's one site here and there, it's not a big deal. Like you move on, it's like whatever, it sucks, but what are you gonna do? Let's do the T-Mobile piece real quick and then let's close out the show.
Mm-hmm.
All right, T-Mobile's got growth momentum up the yin yang. Maybe some Verizon customers. Maybe they're getting some rural America customers as they've converted over some Sprint Keep sites and such. Fixed wireless access continues to be a growth vector for them. I think 300,000 home internet customers, I think that's a slam dunk. It's a big growth vector for them. Mobile, I think they hit about 700,000 net adds. I think on the upside, maybe 800,000. If Verizon hemorrhaged as many as we think they did, we could see them get a small boost there. I think they're going to speak to the Magenta MAX uptake. I think they're going to start talking about ARPU a little bit. That's what the investors want to hear about. Lots of good vibes will be coming out of T-Mobile. The marketing is winning for them. I don't think anybody can understate that or overstate that. Like, let's call a spade a spade. They are an absolute marketing machine. It gives the consumer confidence. The price lock thing has worked well for them in the perception department. I think this is going to be one of those churn rate quarters where T-Mobile shines and the Magenta branded customer shows. Like I said, I think Sprint customer churn has stabilized. I guess it seems like it would make sense. They'll start talking about ARPU. I think the share value is going to go up, like the stock. Who knows? Maybe it goes up, because of this response here. We'll probably get an update for 5G UC for Q3 and the rest of the year. International perks, price lock. They've had a lot of positive things going on at the company. You don't really rock the boat when you have this type of momentum. I know they just did some layoffs. They'll try to probably avoid that like the plague. Any analyst that calls into that earnings report that asks about that, they're going to probably avoid them, probably not answer it. I don't know, man. They're not allowed to talk about the Spectrum auction, so we won't hear anything about that, but they're definitely going to want to go in big on those white space licenses for the N41. So I see a positive quarter for them. Moose, you ready? You want to go in on T-Mobile?
Yeah, I think T-Mobile is going to be doing a pretty good job. I think their ARPU is going to go up. I also am thinking that their their net revenue is also going to go up this year. This quarter. Now it's still debatable. It's still up in the air if they're going to be the number one total net adds of the quarter in terms of smartphones. Probably in terms of holistic net adds, maybe, like everything, right? All wireless total. But T-Mobile is definitely not spending that much money on their network right now compared to Verizon, compared to AT&T.
Oh no, they slowed down. You're right, Moose. Yeah. I don't see many N41 upgrades. The fact that my home tower site got upgraded shocked me. Yeah.
Right. I was also shocked as well. I was like, whoa.
T-Mobile's N41 coverage hasn't changed since N41 hit Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it's been pretty slow here. It's been the same site. So I mean, they're not even on 50% of the sites yet. So there's things they could do.
Yeah.
Maybe next year. I don't know.
Verizon, just to run a point home real fast, Verizon literally has more C-band deployed than T-Mobile does, and Verizon still hasn't even touched all their sites yet.
Moose?
Well, I still believe that by the end of this year, those estimates of where the pops would be for both carriers, Verizon and AT&T, are very conservative. I feel like the pops are going to be extremely higher.
You
But
talking about for
that's just
quarter or end of year?
end of year. End of year.
End of year, I'm saying Verizon covers 200 million pops.
Dang.
End of year, I'm saying Verizon's at 200 million and AT&T is at like 100 to 150.
It's going to be a very interesting year. I still think that by the end of this year, AT&T will hold the speed crown simply because in certain markets that have the DoD spectrum and the C-band, right? If that's 120 to 140 megahertz, while Verizon right now will only be able to do 100, specifically because of the Sammy situation. I apologize, Sammy, but it is what it is. You know, the Sammy is not good right now, man.
Sub 6. Yeah.
It's not good.
Yeah.
And we're talking about Samsung, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, when we look at the networking piece, I got AT&T approaching 100 million pops. I got Verizon exceeding 150 million pops, probably closer to 175. Could they do more? I mean, I guess with the clearance of the next 30 PEAs, early clearing, the B block, I guess they could push 190. They're working freaking hard. I mean, what they're going to do is going to be second to none in terms of pace. But they have a lot of work to do. It's just a lot to cover.
Dude, the only
T-Mobile,
way Verizon doesn't hit the 200 million is if the FCC gets in the way. I'm guaranteeing it, dude. Verizon's hitting 200 mil end of year.
they're working fast, dude. I haven't seen anything like it before. Actually, the first 3 months of the year, Verizon, whoa. Right? And then the last 3 months, April, May, June, July. And July's not done, so I'll only speak to those first 3 months. AT&T is next level, at least in the Cleveland market. Everybody's not seeing what I'm seeing, but if it starts happening in your market, you are about to be impressed. I was joking with Moose. I think they have 15 tower crews in my county right now. It's crazy.
Yep.
I mean, Sneed, just remember one thing that's worth touching on real fast. There are Verizon had C-band sites that were already within those like no turn-on zones from the airports.
Yeah.
And those areas are having the distance that Verizon wasn't allowed to have a site turned on shrunk. So the moment they turn that on, they're instantly going to be adding hundreds of thousands of customers just instantaneously without even having to touch the site.
Sure. Yeah, they're ready to go. And once the FAA no longer has to clear the sites individually, then the sites get turned on a lot faster. There's probably 5 sites within my 20-mile radius of where I live where Verizon has upgraded, but the sites aren't on. They're probably waiting for the FAA to clear them.
I mean, I'm going to give you another case in point example real quick. Verizon basically has everything surrounding the city of Pittsburgh blanketed in C-band, but they're missing the whole entire heart of the city, which is where the most people are. I mean, if Verizon get that turned on, which they already have cell sites upgraded, set to turn them on, that's an instant, like, how many people are in Allegheny County? See, like 400,000?
Yeah, it's a big county, man.
Yeah, so 400,000 just like that, boom. Just by not even having to touch. Oh, what happened?
Yeah, we got you back. We're good.
Okay. Well, that was weird. Like, oops message.
All right, guys. We covered a lot, man. Anything else for the go to the order?
Yeah, I didn't say my T-Mobile ads, man.
Oh, go ahead, Dennis. Go ahead. You're kind of doing the Verizon thing. That's right.
I'm saying that T-Mobile has a quarter where they get, I'm gonna say 800,000.
Okay, so you got a big quarter for them, right? Good.
Yeah, I think they're going to crush it this quarter because they didn't have to do anything to do well. And I think they're going to get a lot of people that respond very well to that whole price lock marketing.
Oh, Dennis, do you think that D. Schneider and Twisted Sister is going to change the game in the wireless marketplace?
No, but I think it got a lot of people talking, and that's what T-Mobile wanted.
We're not going to take it. Moose,
Listen,
have you seen
we can make fun of it all we want, but it got people talking.
Dude, I don't even know who the fuck the Snyder guy is. I'm like, who the hell is this old guy? And yeah, sure, now that you say the song. But again, who cares? Like, it's
Shout
not
out
a
to
big
Ian
deal.
Peck. Happy birthday, my dude. Happy birthday, my
There
friend.
we go.
Yeah, but
all right,
I
guys,
think
gotta go, but
T-Mobile,
we'll talk soon.
See
Probably
you, Moose.
Sunday or something. Later.
But I think T-Mobile is going to eat Verizon's lunch this corner. I think they're going to basically take all the Verizon customers. Every customer that left Verizon is going to T-Mobile. Like, if 4 customers left Verizon, 3 of them go to T-Mobile, 1 might go to AT&T kind of deal. Or actually, 3 go to T-Mobile, 1 go to Cabletown.
See, I got it the other way. 5 customers leave Verizon. I got 3 of them going to Cabletown. I got 1 of them to AT&T, 1 of them to T-Mobile.
Well, the only reason why I said that is because as much as we love to talk about Cabletown only services certain segments of the country, right?
Yeah, but those certain segments have density.
Fair.
Those are places where Verizon historically was very good with market share.
Fair.
Yeah, it's good food for thought, man, when you start thinking about those dynamics and market share, right?
That is very true. I mean, I know here in Pittsburgh, Cabletown has 10% of the wireless market share in Pittsburgh.
Oh, wow. Holy cow.
That was based off some data that internal sources had provided to us. I don't know if you know who I'm referencing here, but
I think that number is, I think it's like 7% for Cleveland.
Yeah.
For Spectrum, you know.
But yeah,
you guys have what
Comcast.
Xfinity, so
yeah. So yeah, 10% is the market share that Comcast has in Pittsburgh for mobile. And then I found out that Verizon has the majority, which I wasn't aware of, at like 45%.
It's all legacy, man. Those customers just don't churn, Dennis.
And then AT&T, I think, was 28%, and then T-Mobile was the remainder of that. I think like it's like 17 or something like that.
Yeah, that's how ours is here. The even with Sprint, they just don't have many customers here. It just never caught on for them. Alltel markets, man. Alltel markets and traditional Verizon markets.
But I would have never guessed it because out of my internal friend group, like a lot of my friends have AT&T now or T-Mobile of some form versus Verizon. But then again, we're also a younger demographic. So
who do you think, Dennis, and this will be our last thing to just discuss in these last couple minutes, when it comes to network excellence, who has the best network in 2023?
In 2023 nationally?
Yeah. You know, like the network excellence piece, the capacity piece, the dynamicness of the network, millimeter wave, mid-band, low band, the whole shebang, just collectively, the reliability, the performance, the whole shebang.
Verizon.
All right, I'm going to go a different route, man. I'm going AT&T. I think AT&T is going to be the new wireless leader starting the end of year 2023.
I wanted to say that I really did, and the only reason why I did not is because of my prediction about what I said with Verizon hitting 200 million pops by end of this year for their C-band. If Verizon gets 200 million pops C-band this year, that means by 2023 they're going to be pushing closer to 225 by end of 2023, 225, 250. And I think that the C-band is going to save their behind, essentially, and giving them the capacity to make up for what they were lacking all these years.
I think 2024, it's going to be Verizon.
I mean, it honestly, if you're talking about today, I would tell you AT&T. Today, this year, I think network excellence goes to AT&T. If Verizon misses if Verizon doesn't perform the way I think they're going to with their C-band rollout, the next year is also AT&T.
See, because of available capacity today, I'm giving the nod to T-Mobile.
You said network excellence.
Yeah, and I think
that means all things. That means calling, texting, data, the whole shebang.
I just think that the perception around T-Mobile right now is undeniable. They just have all this capacity, and people are they're just eating it up, man.
Dude, the best way I would describe T-Mobile's capacity is like I have a massive water reserve, okay? It's all right there, right? But I have no way to actually access it. Like the only way I get to access it is through a little sippy straw. Meanwhile, if there's an actual fire that I want to put out, AT&T is letting me attach a nice fire hose to the fire hydrant and blowing the water all out at like the highest PCI or PSI, right?
That's an interesting analogy.
I mean, what I'm saying is, and I've said this before, I want to make it clear, I want T-Mobile to do well. I actually look at them kind of like the gifted student. They're just missing all the environmental things that makes a gifted student become an Albert Einstein instead of ending up working at McDonald's flipping cheeseburgers, right? Like they don't have money right now. That's what they need. They need money, most importantly. And then with that money, they need to hire talented personnel so that they can start actually becoming a true network. By that, I mean build their own fiber. They need to build their own fiber so that they can actually provide the capacity to their cell sites and have owners' economics to be price competitive in the long term. They need to actually densify. They actually need to remove some cell sites, believe it or not, Sneed. They have areas where they have too many macros. They need to actually remove some macros and replace them with small cells so they don't start having interference with themselves. No, I'm not even joking. Like, dude, there's a place in Pittsburgh where T-Mobile literally has like 6 macro cell sites beaming at the same freaking location.
Within how much range of each other?
Like a mile of each other.
All of them?
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not.
There's an area in North Olmsted, right off of 480, where they just built a tower site on one of the high rises. And I'm going to do a video on this. And then they did another one a mile away. And that's really splitting a macro. I mean, they're going to have to down tilt. They're going to have to power down just to split those cells without causing interference and really just sending the SINAR into the basement, you know?
Or to put it another way to you, Sneed, T-Mobile builds macros like they're small cells here in Pittsburgh. So, i.e. like the Robinson Mall, man. I think they have 4 cell sites covering the Robinson Mall that are all macros instead of just having a. And if you remember when you were at the mall, T-Mobile's performance was still terrible inside the mall. Meanwhile, Verizon had that one that was on top of like that key bank or whatever it was called. But then also inside they had a DAS.
Yeah.
AT&T had a DAS. What did T-Mobile not have? No DAS. T-Mobile's like a doctor from like the medieval times where they think a hammer can just fix everything. Oh, what's wrong? You're having a heart attack. Let me just break your ribs open with this hammer. You know? What's a scalpel? Just break it open with a hammer and I'll rip your skin apart with my hands. Like they're trying to do it with macros, is what I'm saying.
Dennis really got us with the analogies tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed those. They were definitely entertaining.
I don't know how good they were, but like, I don't know. I just want T-Mobile to do well. Like, honestly, out of all the carriers, I sincerely would love to see T-Mobile perform well because they are the ones that are the best priced on the postpaid side. I would honestly say they probably have one of the best plans, if not the best plan on the postpaid side. And I would love it if the network could match that plan experience.
All right. So EM Tech, this will be our last statement just because it's your birthday. Question. He says, when do we see relative network parity across the big 3? The answer to that is right in front of you right now. Do you see customers leaving Verizon to go to AT&T and T-Mobile? If the answer is yes, they are going to AT&T and T-Mobile instead of Verizon, then it is happening right now. People will not go to a carrier that does not work. They will go to a carrier because it's cheaper. They will go to a carrier that offers them more value. But if that carrier does not work, they are not stupid. They will not go there. If it works well enough and people are switching, you have approached parity. It is fact.
Well, I'm
Big
gonna
shout out to
say
TJ Blank. We got a super chat.
we see network parity whenever all carriers have low band, mid band, and millimeter wave on air and available at minimum 70% of the time.
Well, is network parity when a customer is able to use their device 95% of the same way they did on their previous carrier? 98% of the same experience as their previous carrier?
I guess, but if both experiences are still bad,
Yeah, you might as well save money.
yeah, I guess.
Thanks for the super chat, TJ. Thanks for the super chat from, I think most recently it was EM Tech. Happy birthday to you, sir. Hashtag Mod Squad for all my blue wrenches out there. You guys were awesome. Thanks for holding it down. Looks like we got rid of someone out of there. Get him out of here. Hashtag Ravioli Gang. We got hashtag Telco Jesus with us. Hashtag Telco Poppy in the house. For all my Mod Squad, I appreciate you guys. Hashtag Ravioli Gang. You guys are the best. For those of you eating dinner out there, I know you guys are listening to the show and stuffing your face and enjoying. I hope you all have a great weekend. We got more content coming up this weekend, and I've got some videos of some testing and some upgrades that have been going on in the area. Dennis, thanks for coming through. Big shout out to the Moose, man. Dennis, go ahead, take us home, bud.
I just want to say thank you again, as always, Sneed, for always reaching out and having me on. It's always a pleasure being on the show. Thank you for all the incredible viewers that are watching. If you're feeling extra hungry for some more content, may I suggest checking out hashtag Best Phone Plans. That's the channel where you can find me and my fellow friend Stetson. We do content on there that's very interesting. We started a new little bit called Stick or Switch, which I encourage everyone here to tune into live so you can have your questions answered on whether or not you should keep your plan or move to something different. But with that being said, we are out of here. Peace.
Peace.